Hi, I'm Shelley Robbins, and I'm a braider in the Kawartha Lakes, as well as Angelstone and Caledon and across Ontario. Please join me tonight while I braid some beautiful unicorns and tell you a little bit about the business of braiding. I started during COVID because my daughters were horseback riders, and they competed in Silver Series, which is the show that I regularly braid at. And I just wanted to save money, to be honest. And I thought, you know what, I can learn how to do this. And during COVID, horseback riding was running, but braiding wasn't allowed. So I had lots of time to learn how to braid. So one daughter was fully leasing a horse, the other daughter was part leasing. So we were at the barn 6 to 7 days a week. So for the last 5 years, I've been braiding. I'm from Peterborough, Ontario. And I will travel probably about 2 to 3 hours to braid, depending on the size of the team. That would be really important because you don't want to waste money. Sometimes braiders will charge a gas fee to go and braid few horses, you know. I've never done that, but farthest I think would be from my house would be Caledon or Angelstone is the farthest I've gone. I really do feel a sense of pride when I do a good job. I do sometimes take it personally if somebody doesn't like how I braid, but everybody's different in the way that they like braids being done. There's a lot of different kinds of braids you can get. I do a certain kind, so if they're not happy, I'd rather they be happy, but when I see them in the ring, I'm very proud of them. So on top of these fancy show horses that are in the ring, you know, this weekend, I do really enjoy braiding for schooling shows because you have little girls with little ponies, little bows in their hair, and they get matching colored braids. You see this horse is black on black. I do hot pink braids, I do ombre braids, I do rainbow braids. The kids in the weekend shows that are just doing it for fun because they love every minute of it. It's what drives me. It's what I really love about it. Generally the types of braids that I do are hunter or jumper braids. So these are hunter. So when I finish one here, you can see it. So the braids are quite tiny. So when you do a jumper, you can have a bit more hair in them. It can be a bit longer. It's just different, and it's a different type of braid. So, and it takes a lot less time to do. Hunter braids take quite a while to do, at least the right ones. And even within hunter braids, there's different ones. There's the traditional ones, which are long and flat. So a long one would be more like this size, and it would be like pushed in so flat to their mane, and it's just a little bit longer. I do kind of a rounder braid, and then there's also a hybrid, which is kind of a mix of the two. So the one that I do, I'll show you here, is just a little bit smaller and rounder. So when I pull up through, I just have to feel the knot that I tied at the bottom of the braid right there, and then I can kind of know that it's in there and under what I need. Then I do a double surgeon's knot underneath, and I tie it off to secure it really tight as you can. Best thing a braider can hear is, oh my gosh, it was so hard to get your braids out, because that means they were in really well. And then kind of in the middle, and this differs from the flat braids. So with this one, I want it in the middle of the braid, whereas the flat braid is more at the top, and it would have a longer tail. But the hybrid or the round braid is more in the middle. So, turn it off, and then to secure it again, I just do a double surgeon's knot and around and under. So hunter braids and jumper braids differ in the size and kind of the look of them. A jumper braid would be more like flat to the mane, and it stays much more secure, like to the mane and tight. Whereas hunter braids are a little bit elevated. There's a little bit of I call them, this is called bumping them. So I bump them, and it's like a little bump on them. And the goal here is to make sure, it's hard to see with the black on black, but the goal here is to keep your yarn all in one line. So when you look down, especially if it's colored, it's all in a line and straight. And you want the bottoms to line up as well. So the yarn that I use is just Red Heart yarn from Walmart. Nothing fancy. I did find that the Walmart brand that's supposed to be exactly the same breaks though. The Red Heart is better. So For anybody who's starting out in braiding, if that's happening to you and you're like, why is this happening to me? It happened to me too. So just get the red heart, split for the extra couple of bucks, it's worth it. And if one breaks, you got to start again on that braid, because usually the yarn, unless it's the last security braid, like unless it's this last tie here that it breaks on, you got to start again, because you got to make sure it's secure. So again, I have a little tiny bit of a tail here that's sticking out that I couldn't tuck. Tucking is a whole other thing too. Her braids are short enough that I don't have a lot, but sometimes you have a long tail, like on a horse. So I'll razor that down with a derm razor and make it just kind of feathered so it's not blunt. And then I can wrap it and I can roll it. But her mane is quite well kept and is ready for me. So I know that it's the right length. There might be a couple here that I have to do that too, but most of the time this horse has the correct length for her mane. So when you're braiding, sometimes the horses get irritated, especially when there's bugs and stuff with these. So sometimes I'll stop and I'll cut off the strings, but she's, again, super good horse, so she's probably not gonna be bothered by it. So water all the time on the mane. Then I have just this year gotten into the habit of using a new product that I really, really like. It cuts down on flyaways, which is fabulous because it happens. I mean, your horse keeps its mane in. I would say the most you'd want to leave a horse's mane in is like 2 days. So if you're at a show Saturday and Sunday, the horse gets braided Friday, that's fine. This is Thursday. I'm braiding this horse again on Saturday night. So she gets braided twice, and if it's a tail, it needs to be removed and rebraided daily. So this is the stuff that I use. It's called Best Braid. And it's awesome. It's a Canadian product made in, I think it's Belleville, or that area. And I buy it, I actually bought this from another braider who, she was leaving the industry, so I bought it from her. But she swore by it. She loved it. And I know lots of them that just love it, but it waxes down their mane so that you don't have as many flyaways, which is great. So when I split up, I'll show you here. So I put the wax on, I've wetted it, soaking wet. Then I just evenly break up the hair. Doesn't really, you have to kind of judge. And when I was being trained, the woman who showed me said, you eventually get to know it by feel. Like you just feel like this is enough. And when I'm doing it, I can go, oh, that's too many pieces, or that's not enough pieces. So I kind of judge by feel, but roughly you're going to want like that. And then you cross over. So I do my crossovers. Everybody's different in how many they cross over. I usually count down. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And the reason I keep this one instead of pinning that one up with the others is so I can look at it and go, yeah, that's okay. It's maybe a little bit bigger, but it's not a big enough difference to be concerned. So then I get my yarn, which I keep in my hammer holder from this tool belt. And then I insert it in there and I go 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Some people do 22, some people do 25. Everybody's different. And it's important when you're doing colored yarn that you put it in at the same place. And if you put it in the last round, then it won't show within the braid because it goes underneath. Because you want it to be a nice clean look, but just have that cute little color across the front of it right here. But again, this is a black on black, so it's hard to see that piece of it, but when you do rainbow braids, it's very cute because they have it that way. So I do a double surgeon's knot to secure it, like I do when I do the pin. And then everybody's different again in how they do this. I do a single pull. Again, this is from learning on horses with super long hair and thick hair, because I would always have these ginormous balls here that I had to tuck under. So I was always trying to make them thinner. So that's why I did that. So I just only do the one, I do a double surgeons with both yarn. Then I do a single wrap with a double and pull. So it's secure, but just not as thick as it would be with double. So every time you split their hair, there's more dry hair under here that comes up. So you always have to re-wet it. Some thoroughbreds generally have super thin manes, but some have super thick manes. So you just kind of have to watch. Some owners really do thin their horses' manes out. Some leave them kind of to grow wild and be kind of a bit thicker, which is fine. I love thick manes. I love braiding them. I like how they look. But I can braid thin manes, obviously. But I've never had an issue with braiding thick manes because they're how I learned. So then again, this is wet. And we do the best braid down. And then we just separate them again by feel. And I can already feel right now that I'm like, that's too much. I know right now that's too much. So then I take my clip. And again, everybody uses a different way to separate them. And I just take a little bit off, and you want to have a nice clean line down here so you can see their neck, and then you pin this up. And I have a couple different kinds of clips that I use. This one is like kind of holds back. Some horses have crazy cowlicks. It'll hold back cowlicks, which I like. With English, you're going to have jumpers and hunters. So those are two different kinds of braids. These are hunter braids, and the jumpers, like I covered before, they are a bit bigger, a bit more bally, thicker. You know, they're just a little bit different. So, and dressage braids are they're like a rosebud when they're done. They're really interesting, and you kind of roll them under. It's a different process. Western generally does not get braids. They would get braids if it was like maybe a fancier show, but most of the time they don't have braids in their hair. I can do a running braid, which is a braid that starts here on a horse with like super long hair, and run it all the way down, and it braids close to the mane and then trails down their back. There's a split braid you can do on draft horses where you do two sides of it. That looks really beautiful in a draft horse, like a Clydesdale. And you'll maybe sometimes see it in like the hitches, the ones where they put the big bells and stuff on them, and they'll have different kinds of braids and those horns they put on them. My daughter was a mounted archer, but they do feathers in their manes and braiding, and it's very beautiful. I was kind of looking forward to doing that. So maybe in the future I'll get to go down to Michigan, to the Michigan centers, and see what they do, but it's beautiful. So they really do beautiful braiding on them for the archery. Generally for a mane on a horse, and again, this depends on how the horse behaves. It can take anywhere from like 45 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on the horse. And depending on the mane, depending on how the mane is and if it's well kept. Size of the neck is a big thing. I talk to braiders that have a horse they have to do 50 braids in, and that takes a while. It takes a long time. And then you have ponies that you can get done in like half an hour because they have barely any hair and barely any neck. So it just kind of depends on a lot of factors. Tails can take 20 minutes to a half an hour. Some really good braiders can do it in like 10 minutes. But they're a lot more, it sounds like it's a lot, oh, you're like, oh, I'll just do tails, but tails take so much pressure on your thumbs and on your hands. It's a lot of work. This is work too, but the tails are a lot of strain on your hands. Because if you let them loose at all, the braid's ruined and you have to start at the beginning. How I decide on color of the horse's manes is usually to do with the clients. Sometimes the coach, sometimes the mom, sometimes the dad. Sometimes there's a theme at like they had a Canada Day theme. I've done pride themes, things like that. It just kind of it depends. I usually get told what color. So for me, with my clients, what I'll usually say, if it's a barn, I have one barn that I do regularly, and every time she's doing a show, she just opens up a chat group for me on Facebook, and I just message the parents the pictures of my yarn. I also have charms that I will put in as well. Send them some charms, say, if you want a charm, let me know. I'll be putting one in this horse tonight as a surprise for my client because she didn't ask, but she's lovely. I do pretty much any color. Hunters sometimes traditionally is matched to mane, but when you get into the schooling shows and younger kids, sometimes it's fun to do colors, and sometimes older kids. I have one client who loves pink, and she gets her horse braided in pink as often as she can. So, but they do sometimes when you get into the gold shows and the silver shows, they prefer match to mane because it's a little more professional and a little more what they should be doing. Before a show, I have a little wooden bucket, a box I got at the dollar store. Really spent a lot of money on it, and I will organize my clients in Ziploc bags with a cue card with what I'm doing for the weekend for them and their total cost for the weekend. And I have their yarn separated. So I create these bundles of yarn, and there's one piece in the middle. My black is always hot pink in the middle, because black and navy blue are very hard to tell apart in the middle of the night when you're braiding. So I just put them hot pink, and then this will hold your yarn together and it won't fall out of your belt loop. So it's a braider in the US showed me that trick, and it's awesome. It works really well. So I put those together ahead of time, and their charms, and work on a method of how they want to braid, you know, in terms of ombre, or if it's just a straight color, what I'm doing. So I like to talk to them and work out what they'd like, because they're paying for it. It's a service they're paying for, so they should get what they want, I think. And so the proper way to remove the braids, because honestly, other than my daughters, I don't remove braids. I put braids in, I don't remove them. So I have a tool in here that I literally have posted on my website, because parents were like, where did you get that? It is a seam ripper, which is what we recommend to remove braids, not scissors, because scissors can cut like an entire braid off. But this particular seam ripper, you can get at Fabricland, and it's a very sharp little curved knife, and it pops braids out so easily. So I'm not going to take one out, but underneath here is where everything connects. It's hard to see because it's tight to their neck, but all the yarn connects, and if you just slip this under there and pop out, it'll all fall out, which is great. And then you just have to kind of pop the end tie off and then unbraid it. My recommendation to my clients, if they ask, is always this particular tool and soaking wet mane. Like, I would go over to the wash stall, soak your horse's mane, and then take the braids out and brush it as you go, because then it gets flat. It doesn't stay like curly and crazy, which is good, because you want it to be able to be ready for your braider to rebraid again, or you want the horse to look, you know, and be comfortable, look normal and be comfortable, because having these braids in is tight, and it's not, you know, great to keep in for long periods of time. So it's nice to kind of moisten it and then pull them out, and it's a little bit easier. You can just get a regular seam ripper. I just know that one works really, really well. There is a lot of work for braiders. Whenever I do braiding clinics as well. I did start out my life as a school secretary, so I love spending time with kids and teaching kids. And so for me, braiding clinics are a fun way to be still involved with kids, but I'm no longer in the schools. I'm an HR professional, so I'm in the board office, so it's different. So I do braiding clinics, and whenever the kids ask me, I'm like, you become a braider, because you will always have work when you become a good one. It takes a couple years to get good. Never get discouraged. My braids were horrific when I started. They were all over the place. They were loose. It was awful. But you practice, you get super, super good. I'm by no means the best in the field. There's so many people who are amazing braiders that I talk to quite a bit, and they're lovely. I mean, I kind of had a bit of an advantage because, and most girls do, but they either show horses, or like, I was a horse mom. So I helped out my daughter's team with their braiding until my daughters left. And then my daughter catch rode for a number of years, so I would braid the owner's horses. And then people met me through there. That's how I met this owner. And she has booked me repeatedly since then, and I really have a great relationship with her. And through her, I met my other, one of like several other clients. This horse I braided for 2 shows ago. There's another horse in this line I braided for another show a couple weeks ago. It's, if you have connections and you're good at what you do, you're gonna get jobs, and it's endless. You can get endless amounts of work. I could have braided a lot more horses tonight, but I'm 45 and I don't want to braid more horses tonight. I would like to just braid the 7 I have and be happy with that. So, but some of the girls here tonight will braid 14, 15, 16 horses, and they can do that. You know, they're young, they need the money for their horse shows, and that's great. I think it's a fabulous opportunity as long as you can do both. So it's kind of hard when you're showing and trying to do this at the same time, I would imagine. But there's lots of work in it. If anybody ever wants to get started, you can Google videos, you can go to a clinic, you can just start braiding. Like, it's just get someone to kind of show you. But yeah, practice, practice, practice. I hope everyone got something out of the video tonight. Please remember not to get discouraged. It takes a while to learn how to braid. Just keep pushing forward, you'll get it. And if you need to reach out to me for braiding, it's Shelley's Equine Braiding on Facebook or Instagram. Please feel free to reach out.